This is not a part of the council meeting, it's not an official council meeting. It is a budget workshop where we're going to go over, for the first time, everyone assembled in the council. The two that are not here will be able to watch the video when they get back. What we're going to do is go over the budget, and the meeting for the council meeting will start at 6 this evening. So with that in mind, I'll pass it over to City Manager Mark Franklin.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. One of the joys of a small town field is we have pizza here, so please feel free to get up and get yourself a slice of pizza or two and make yourself at home. And
there's no way the 2 or 3 of us are going to eat all that.
Easy to get to.
And this is a draft budget, so we're hoping to take notes and carry on with a formal request to the full city council at the next meeting to have an agenda as a proposed budget for potential adoption at the next meeting, which is 2 weeks from today. So,
Quiet in the back, please. Steven, go ahead.
Okay, so what we get out of today, if there's any kind of consensus for changes, we'll look at incorporating those into the draft budget and then looking to bring that to the city council in 2 weeks from today. We're looking to get an agenda for adoption at the next council meeting, which is the 17th. Okay, and this, I'm going to just go through the budget quickly, and I'll be looking to the city council to see if they have any questions. And we can stop anywhere and get into greater details. The budget this year is different than what we've had in the past. That you'll see there's been quite a bit more information that was added to this year's budget in hopes to make it easier for everybody to read, not just the finance people like Blake and myself, but also our staff, the people out in public works, and our contract employees and the public at large that don't have time to come in and sit through a budget workshop. So we're trying to make this more of a user-friendly document that is easier to understand. And with that are some descriptions. So this is a draft budget, so there are things that aren't in here and some mistakes. So the first page here, you'll see this is a table of contents. We're looking at putting the table of contents in there, which we don't have yet, then we're going to wait till we get the final budget. But we are looking to put a table of contents in there. Here is a organization chart. This is new as well. Yeah. Okay, and
It's hard to see, is it?
it is hard to see. I can zoom in on certain sections,
How
but
about if we turn the lights
Can we
off?
take the lights
Thank you, ma'am.
up at the top row here, I've got the little hand going back and forth. These are the city council. This is our legislative branch that sets policy and runs the city through policy and directions to myself, the city manager, which is down below here. Right here, we have the treasurer, which is elected into the position, and below myself, which I've been told is incorrect, our city attorney should actually, I'll probably move him over here. I need to verify that he reports to the council, not to myself. So we're looking at the legislative body up here, and treasurer and city attorney as underneath the city council, and myself under the city council. And we have Julie as the administrative assistant, who's my assistant, and really the city assistant. She does just about everything. And then below myself, we have all the departments. So right here we have airport, finance, public works, utilities, fire, police, planning, building, code enforcement, and solid waste. So the code enforcement, we're looking at moving code enforcement under the public works, where we're looking at combining 2 part-time positions into 1 full-time position and bringing them together. So that's looking, that used to be a part-time position, so we're looking at bringing that in under public works as a full-time position, if the budget gets approved that way. And then underneath each one of these departments, you'll see the blocks under here. We have a utility clerk under finance and accounts receivable under finance. Public Works, we have 2 employees, Public Works maintenance workers that are currently in Public Works. And we have 3 utility workers that are under utilities. 3 utility workers under the department head. And fire department, we have volunteers. In the sheriff's department, we have their vast resources in the sheriff's department for the county-wide that come here, but they report under Sergeant Merrill, who is designated the police chief for the city of Dunsmuir. So any questions on the organization chart? Okay. This is new to the budget. We conducted some seminars or workshops where we're working on mission, vision, and goals. And one of the successes that we came out with was a vision statement. I'll read it real quick. It says, in Dunsmuir, we commit to building on our heritage while enhancing the quality of life for all. We collaborate to foster pride, develop a vibrant and diverse economy, preserve our mountain environment, and celebrate our active and creative community. So this is a success. We were looking to also work on mission statements and goals, and we had some problems we lost some staff and also an issue with the water bottling facility, which took higher precedence. And so hopefully we'll get back into that this year to finish that out. Okay, goals. The next page, a big part of the budget is to really focus on what are the goals of the city. It helps give priority to myself and the staff and give focus on what's the top priorities for us to focus what little resources the city has. As you can see, we have a large responsibility for the city. We're a full-service city, so you can see all the responsibility. But if it comes down to staff, we have 13 staff to do all of that. And then we have contract staff as well. So we don't have a lot of resources. So getting goals is very important. And in 2017, the City Council adopted these goals that are here. Identify infrastructure needs, address marijuana, develop sidewalk maintenance program, investigate options for annexation, investigate feasibility of green waste recycling, investigate options for improving law enforcement. So I get into a brief summary of where we're at in regards to those goals, and at the end of that I recommend that this next year we look at revisiting goals and to set what are the priorities moving forward. Since we've made a lot of headway in that as well, in accomplishing those goals. City manager budget message, this is something I started working on today. It's really going to be like an executive summary of the budget in whole, what kind of stands out, and if there's kind of, if you want the cliff notes of what to get out of the budget, that's what's going to be in the city manager's budget message. Okay, here we have a list of, when I was talking before about those 13 employees, these are those employees, and it shows what their costs are and where those costs are funded from. So we have different funds in the city, and you'll see under the, I know it's hard to see here, but within here, that is where we allocate the costs for these employees in the different funds.
Mark, could you give them an example? Maybe a medium one with just a few people, a few projects to work on.
Let's see. Let's look at the utilities clerk, or let's look at administrative assistant, which is Julie. Here they have all the costs on the first part here: salaries, FICA, PERS, health insurance, workers' comp, deferred comp, and then our score. So these are all costs that are associated with employees. And then under the funding, we have different funds in the city. The general fund is one that's familiar with most people. It's where money can be spent in any general sense. So we have 25% of Julie's time in finance. Administrative assistant. 15% of her time is in city management, and I'll zoom in if you can see that. 15% right here is under city manager, 35% under city clerk, 20% under planning, 10% under solid waste. I'm trying to get 10% under water, 10% under wastewater, which equals 100% of her time. So those are the different pools of money that come out of these different funds to pay for her salaries, benefits, and all of the insurances that go along with the cost of that position. And they correlate with how much time, we try to encapsulate how much time that she spends assisting myself, how much time she spends assisting or performing as a city clerk. That's what she's doing here today, deputy city clerk, and working on planning. When someone comes in and has planning questions, Julie's at the counter. Also, she assists with water, wastewater, billing, and assisting finance in that regard, and solid waste. So we try to say how much time is she going to spend out of a 40-hour week, how much of her time is going to be spent in these different areas, and that's how we allocate those funds. And that's with every position that you see up here, those, I think, 13 positions. Okay, governmental funds. So this is where we start getting into the general fund. And I'll just say, read what the governmental funds are. Governmental funds are those that account for governmental activities funded by general revenues, taxes and fees, and special revenues, grants, subventions, special assessments, and etc. So this is money that comes into the general fund that can be spent for general purpose or in some cases for special purposes. The general fund here is our Fund 10, which is what we're going to get into. Other special revenue funds are like our local transportation, which is we're getting ready to do a sidewalk project with local transportation and SB1 money. So those are put into a special revenue fund within the general fund, and then when we get projects, we spend that money out of there. Okay, and here we're getting into the general fund revenues. So these, as it's hard to see, I'm going to zoom in on the left side here. And this, all of this is on our website if you want to download this and review it yourself. So here from the beginning, secured and unsecured taxes, this is what we get for property taxes every year. Sales and use tax, that's when something is sold that's non-food related, and there's a tax associated with that. And the transaction and use tax, that is the tax that was passed just a couple years ago for the half-cent sales tax.
Could you pause for a second and just make sure that they understand? I know there are people here that are concerned about that. That's the fund we're talking about there?
Yes, so it's a general fund revenue, but it is in the account. We have an account here which is 4125. That is transaction and use tax. And we have a section later in the budget that shows exactly what was applied for and what we're proposing. But this is what we're looking at, and you can see that we last year, we budgeted $67,000, and we're projecting to get at this point 71. Last year we ended at $83,000, so we're thinking that next year, I'm normally like to be conservative, but we're looking at hopefully $95,000 to come in just from TUT this next year.
Thank you.
So, okay. Okay, and then franchises. These are all the fees that come in. So you see some of them are small. Yeah, they're all revenues that's coming in. Thank you. And there are all these different areas.
I do have a question. If and when, I guess, we get to a point where we do have revenue coming in from sale of cannabis,
Yes.
where would that go and flow into? What number would start increasing once we've got a tax in place to start receiving? Would it be a separate account or one of these?
It'd be a separate account,
Okay.
just so we can track how
Sure.
much we're getting. Yeah. Okay, and at the end of this, we're looking at revenues coming in. What we expect for revenues coming in this next fiscal year, starting the beginning of next month, we're expecting $1,489,163 into the general fund. Now in the budget, that's the draft budget before you today, we have expenditures at $1,489,163. So we worked hard to balance the general fund budget this year. And as you'll see, there's no frills in here, where all of the money that's coming in is going out to the highest and best uses we believe at this point. And we're not currently, I'd like to see our general fund reserves brought up to a higher, get a standard of 20-25%, and also start planning for the future with capital improvement. We're really not doing any of that right now. So we balanced the budget. One of the other things that we are assuming is we're looking at revenues coming in for a lease of our water bottling facility. We don't have a lease yet, so we're kind of really, at this point, in my opinion, we're being a little optimistic here with two ways, the TUT, and we're also optimistic in saying that we're expecting that bottling lease to begin giving us revenue next month, and we don't have a lease yet. So we might be short there, or things could fall apart. So if that happens, we're going to have to do some drastic retooling of the budget. Hopefully we don't.
I know it would be better if you said exactly how you'd like to phrase this, but could you explain to the folks a little bit more about what the basis of the bottling plan is and how it relates to the city and how it affected us this year and how you think in general it might go? I know there are things you can't say, and that's why I'll leave it up to you to explain, but I think most folks out there have no idea that the city owns a bottling plant.
Sure. So yeah, we have a building that's on the north end of Dunsmuir that was being operated by Castle Rock Water. And back in March, the city issued a 3-day notice to pay or quit. We did not receive payment, so we went out to solicit potential new leaseholders. We received 3 bids, and we are in negotiations with the top bid proposal right now. And they're looking at trying to keep the water bottling aspect going, amongst other things. They're looking at possibly doing Etna brewing aspect, water bottling, and brewing of Etna beers for production and distribution. But right now it's still they're working on negotiations with a prior leaseholder, and we're waiting on a lease to come from them. And it hasn't been easy, so I'm hopeful that we get something soon, because the city is dependent in a tune of about $85,000 a year in lease payments that goes into this account here. So if we didn't receive, I'd say in total we got about $8,000 last year in lease payments from the prior leaseholder, and so that's about an $80,000 hit to the general fund. We were fortunate last year that we cut back on some of the things that were planned. Sidewalk improvements were one of them, the capital projects that the city council earmarked over $22,000 for sidewalk repairs. We held off on doing those because of the concern of the loss of revenue. And our sales tax came in, and our TUT taxes came in higher than expected. And we believe that that higher than anticipated revenue is offsetting the loss in revenue. But this year, we're expecting more revenue, but because of the increases in salaries and benefits, increases in workers' comp, increases in energy, increases across the board, that we are now, this balanced budget is predicated on us receiving those lease payments. So it's a little nerving to go into this without having a lease in hand at this point, which I was hoping to have by now.
Thank you, sir. That's well said.
Okay.
By the way, before we have a break here, you may want to introduce our finance director.
Oh, absolutely.
I realize we haven't had a chance to do that. The folks are here. There's a television camera going.
All right. Well, one of the things that happened around the time, just after the new year, we had our finance director who gave notice that she was resigning and moving on to bigger, better things. And so we were scrambling. We put the word out there and did a recruitment to fill the role of finance director for the city of Dunsmuir. And Blake was selected with flying colors.
What's his name?
Blake.
No, I mean the second part of it.
Michelson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. I'm so used to his first name basis. I don't know if you want to say he's got excellent credentials. He's got a background in finance that goes way back and also in teaching. Why don't you say a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, I graduated with a bachelor's in economics. Yes. Hello, everybody. Graduated with a bachelor's in economics from UC Davis. Go Aggies. And I also just recently completed my certificate in accounting. So I have a specific in accounting now. Started off my career in K-12 public education at a school district just north of San Francisco. Great time. Then moved on and did some government work in Texas, in Austin, Texas. Hook 'em horns. Had a great time at the university level. Then came back to Chico State University. Go Wildcats, I think. I don't know. I wasn't too far in Chico. It was a great time. At a nonprofit that's sole purpose was to support the university. So and then here.
Fireway, you were.
And then, oh yeah, so I was at Firewet for about a year as their financial analyst. And yeah, I think that's about it. It's great to be here. I love being here. Dunsmuir is a great town. I feel very honored and lucky to be able to serve everybody here. So thank you.
Mr. Bryce, back to you.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate to have Blake on our team. We're truly got a winning team. Okay, so that's it for revenues. And then we'll get into, within the general fund, there's different departments. The city council is the first department that I have within the budget because of the first one in the numbering of our general fund departments. So here's the city council. I won't get into the details of all the departments, but feel free to download this draft or the final budget that just kind of describes what the city council does. And here's the numbers. So here's prior fiscal year costs for 2015-16, and the government runs on a fiscal year that starts July 1st and goes to the end of June. So we're getting ready to start the next fiscal year. So that's why it shows 2015-2016 because it's kind of split in the year. 2016-2017, and then this is what we're last year's budget. Yeah, for our current year right now. This is where we're currently at as of the end of, I think, May, sometime in May. And this is what we're recommending for next fiscal year. And hopefully at the next city council meeting, we'll have a number in these rows that will be for adoption. So after we get the city council meeting and they adopt the budget, hopefully, then we'll go back in and we'll fill these numbers in and publish the budget.
Mark, Mario has a question.
Yes.
I didn't want to digress too much, but Bruce brought up something about the marijuana revenues, and I think it needs to be clear. My understanding is that any revenues we collect from processing and having ordinances will be money pretty much earmarked for the costs of doing that, and that unless we pass a sales tax, it will not show up as a revenue stream, and it is not in front of council. So for a lot of reasons, we're probably not going to create that category until the law is created and we have something.
Yeah, thank you. That's a loud whistle. That's correct. So there's two aspects of the marijuana ordinance. One is the fees. When they apply, they pay fees. That all those fees go towards processing the application. We're looking at possibly having a measure on the November election to tax the marijuana sales. And if that passes, then those costs will be going into the general fund for general purposes. Okay, and then you'll see a commonality as we go forward. The city council doesn't have a lot of expenses, but within the department there are accounts that are drawn out of for the city council travel and training, memberships, professional services, part of which is happening right here where we have the Siskiyou Media Council, contract special services, advertising notices, utilities, office expenses. So there's not a whole lot of expenses that come out of the city council. But up here you'll see this is what we're recommending for the budget, and then you'll see it lines up with what is, these all add up to this number down here. So that's why we're recommending that number. Okay. The next one is city manager, myself. So I get into some description about what I do. And here's what I'm looking at for, this was the prior years, and recommended for this year is right here, $65,680. And you'll see there's more categories that I draw out of. Over here, more accounts that I draw out of. And again, you'll see this number right here is the same number that we're recommending down here. So you can see exactly in what category the funds come out of as a recommendation, where that money's being spent, or requested to be spent. City clerk and treasurer, this is the other end of the table here with Mario and Julie, primarily. And this is what we're recommending, $45,764. And you can go down the list right here and see where all those costs come out of to justify that. City attorney, this is a contract service that the city has with Mr. John Kenny. Our recommended is $32,000. And once again, here is a really small, it's really a contract, so it's professional services and litigation expenses.
Could you take a moment to just talk about what we talked about with regards to how we're able to piggyback off of Mr. Kenny because of the work he's doing in campus with the other cities?
Sure. John Kenny is also a city attorney. He's a contract city attorney for the city of Dunsmuir. He's also a contract attorney for the city of Shasta Lake and a contract attorney for the city of Mount Shasta. And he has other clients and maybe other cities. I know for sure he has those two, at least the three of us. And in regards to the cannabis work that he's been doing, the city of Shasta Lake is way ahead of the curve on dealing with what they're going to allow with cannabis. And the city of Shasta Lake actually hired some consultants to come in and work with John Kenny to formulate what needs to be done. And also working with the city of Mount Shasta, which is a little bit ahead of us in some regards, but it's all the same attorney, so we've really been fortunate to gather a lot of the work that was done in those other areas that we were able to bring in for the city of Dunsmuir. So we're very fortunate to have that expertise and be able to borrow a lot of stuff that's already done.
And save money.
Save a lot of money.
$30,000 a year for lawyers, not much money.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, planning. Planning is a contract service as well. Arlene Dinges, Richard's wife, she is the planner for the city of Dunsmuir. These are the duties if you are curious to see what the planner does. And this is what we're looking at for next fiscal year. Looking at $46,432. Above this one here, we're showing revenues. The planning is, we're looking at the general fund funding $30,000, and then we're looking at a possible OES hazardous assessment plan that we're looking to get grant funds. And we're also hoping that her time will be in kind for our match towards that grant. So we're working on that. So we're looking at revenues needing to come in at $55,000. Some of that would be for grant funding for this, hopefully this grant. Expenditures being at $46,432. Okay, and this is, if you want to get into the details, again, this is all the way down the row here. Some of our administrative assistants' salaries and stuff are in here as well. Our contract is in here under, you know, 7,300 professional services right here is where our contract services are located under. And 7,310, which is contract special services. Okay, finance. This is Blake's department here. If you want to see what goes on in the finance department, and here it is really a general fund. From the general fund, this is we're requesting $206,635. There's also IT services and other contract services, auditor, and things like that that come in here as well. And here is the breakdown within the department. And you can also look at prior years to see how much money was spent and where we're currently at this year and where we expect to be at this year and what we're requesting for next year. So it's really a chronological look at within each account as to how it's been spent throughout the years. Building inspection, this is a contract position as well. Dave Smith, so you can read about what his role is. If somebody's doing some construction and building, there's a permit process, plans that are put in. He reviews them or sends them out for contract review of the plans. But he does go out and inspect the work when it's in the different phases. And here's the cost we're looking at, $20,100 for next fiscal year. Law enforcement, contract service with the Sheriff's Department. Here are the roles that they do. And we're looking at next year a cost of $473 and $379. $473, yeah, thousand. Thank you, Don. Thank you very much. And next on the list, fire department. We have one employee in the fire department, fire chief, and then we have volunteers that staff the remaining, and they get paid when there's call-outs. And we also get reimbursed for a lot of the call-outs that happen. So up here you'll see the funding source. We have the general fund, $143,000 and some change, but we also have call-out reimbursements and let's see, mutual aid and EF recovery. And these numbers here, we looked at, Blake went back and did a 3-year average to come up with these numbers as our best guess as to what's going to come in. Of course, it's all dependent on how many call-outs they get assigned to. So that's why we went back 3 years, 3 to 5 years?
Maybe 5.
5 years to try to get us the best number we can come up with.
Crazy. Because I've done a lot of those EF recoveries in the field where you're collecting information.
Yeah, very important. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
that.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
You're doing more, Jeff.
Well, we do it because it means we get paid too, so.
That's right. Okay, let's see, we're still on, okay, still on fire, and within here you can see the breakdown of where all of the, as we get into the larger intensive operations, like fire and public works and utilities, you'll see there's a lot more accounts that are associated because they have a lot of different pools of money they have to pull from for all the different activities that take place. And we're still going, see that's a lot of accounts there. Streets and roads, here's our public works. The public works, we have 2 employees right now. Those 2 employees do the streets and roads, and they also do parks and building maintenance as well. Just 2 employees. We're hoping this year to combine, like I said earlier, combine the code enforcement with public works at 2 part-time positions and get that extra person to help out there.
Mr. City Manager,
Yes.
could you restate that in more dramatic terms so everybody hears and understands? Because there's a lot of people out there talking about the lack of a community service officer right now. I'd like them to know that we are planning next year on having somebody to do that.
Well,
If it works out.
yeah, if it works out. So in the budget here, we have, last year we were trying to do a full-time public works employee, and we just didn't have the funds because of the water bottling facility. We didn't want to fill a position and not get the revenue and then have to go through a layoff process. So we decided to be prudent and hold back on filling that full-time position. Fortunately that we did, but we did have a part-time person that is currently working for the city as well. His name's Scott, and but we didn't do a full-time position, so we're not paying the benefits that we would have for a full-time person. This year, we're looking at, and our code enforcement person that was here, Ryan, he took a job up at the casino up in Wairika, and same reason we didn't go out to advertise. We weren't sure if we'd have the money, and I thought this would be an opportunity to try to cover services and get a full-time position. So we're looking at marrying the 2 positions, public works maintenance worker and code enforcement. The code enforcement portion is 25%. Code enforcement, 25% public works, and then we have the remainder throughout the salary schedule, which you can see there. And again, a big portion of this budget is predicated on us getting a lease with the water bottling facility. the longer that holds out, the more we're going to have to hold back until we get something concrete to go forward.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the details for roads, and here's the details for buildings and ground. Again, it's two people that deal with all of the roads and streets, street signs, storm drains, all that stuff. And the same two people also deal with all the building maintenance and the parks that the city maintains. And this is those numbers to support that. Okay, here's TUT Measure P. I've got a narrative here I'll just talk about. So the transaction and use tax, which went before the voters as Measure P. Measure P passed by a simple majority, which is 50+1 of Dunsmuir voters in November of 2015, and is a general unrestricted transaction and use tax. A general unrestricted tax is one that can be used to fund any program, function, service, or project at the discretion of the City Council. It is not a special restricted tax, which would require approval of 2/3 of the voting public. Measure P went into effect on April 1st, 2016. And from the ballot Measure P, I took some of the language off of there. It says to fund general obligation, or to fund general operation of the City of Dunsmuir to include supporting the library, parks and recreation, and other eligible projects and/or services within the City of Dunsmuir. So that's a paraphrasing right out of the ballot measure that I wanted to make sure it was clear that this is what the voters were voting on. And in here, to the left of this chart, I'll zoom in on this. You can see this is, these are the applications that came in this year for TUT funding. And this is what came out from the numerous meetings with the Finance Committee and staff that was open to the public to say, how are we going to allocate this money and keep the budget balanced? So we received a request from the library of $20,000, and the Finance Committee and staff recommended the $20,000 to go towards the library. Parks and Rec received a application for $20,007, and the committee and staff went with the $12,500. Mike did show up at the Finance Committee meeting, and we did have a discussion with him in attendance there. Farmers Market, we've in the past funded $300, and we're looking to support that again next year with $300. Summer Food Program, we had an application that came in for $4,000, which I believe is more than they've requested in the past, and we've recommended the $4,000 as well. There was also an application to invest in the audio visual for City Council. The council chamber's right here. There was a report that was done a few years ago, and part of that purchase was done in the sound system, which is what you're hearing right now. In the amount, in the remaining amount was the $7,979. At this time, staff and the committee did not fund that. Butterfly Hilltop thinning. This is a request to do some thinning up on one of the hillsides in the city limits. We're looking at $6,000. That did not get funded. Community Resource Center. This is a request from the Community Resource here in Dunsmuir of $12,000. Did not get proposed funding. Saving Shasta Cats, another nonprofit organization here in the city of Dunsmuir. We're requesting assistance of $7,300 in assisting with the spading and neutering of the cats and care, feeding. Citizen of the Year, $300. That's something we carried over. Chamber of Commerce, $12,000, and that's what was being proposed. Siskiyou Economic Development Council, $5,000. That's what we did last year, and that's what we're proposing this year. Children's Park, this is the cost to keep Children's Park, to pay the lease that the city has to keep Children's Park where it's at, $9,000. Sidewalk repairs, last year was $22,000. I was hopeful to try to at least get what we had last year into this year as a minimum, but to keep the balanced budget, that's kind of what took the hit here. So from $20,000, we knocked it down to $1,717. Community parking lots, we have a couple parking lots that are, the city leases to provide parking for the downtown businesses and for visitors. In particular, we have the one that's north of City Hall, and we have parking that's with the Union Pacific down on Sacramento. That's at $13,800.
Mr. Brand?
Yes.
A couple things. First of all, on the children's park, I'd just like to make it clear to the public what the situation is there. We've been renting the park, and particularly when Spruce Street was expanded, we ended up having the person leasing to us wanting to get us out of there and continuing to raise the rent. Unfortunately, we don't have enough money because of our budgetary situation, financial situation, to be able to maneuver to get to a different spot where we wouldn't be paying for the rent. So it's one of the situations we've been kind of stuck in, and hopefully we might find a solution down the line. I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I want to point out is under sidewalk repairs. I don't want to leave the impression that all that's being done with sidewalks is $1,700. Would you also talk about the major project we're looking at later on?
Sure. Further in the budget, we have a couple funds. One is a gas tax that was passed, or put in place about a year and a half ago, which is the SB1. So we've applied for and received the money from that gas tax for current fiscal year and next fiscal year to go towards a sidewalk project. And we're also received some grant funds from the LTC, which is the Local Transportation Commission, to take to get, we're looking at about $33,000 that they're putting towards doing some bus shelters. It'll be on the north parking lot of City Hall, and also a bus, what they call a semi-seat, owned by US Bank. And as part of that, we're looking at putting in some ADA crosswalks and doing curb, gutter, and sidewalk as well. We did 2 bids, which is on the council's agenda for today. And we're looking to have the council award to one of those contractors. It came in much higher than expected. It's not cheap to do sidewalks. So this $1,717 is aside from, this is work that we would do more locally than what we're doing for this project over here.
And your vision of the work downtown here is kind of at a transportation hub, is that right?
Yes, it's really kind of the civic center and more of a prototype of how we're looking to do possibly future sidewalks. It's kind of the central location for the city. So the bus stops, we're looking at a good place for people to come down to and get the bus coming in and going out of the city. So it's kind of the hub. So we thought we'd start there.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, enterprise funds. So unlike the general fund, there are enterprise funds. And enterprise funds, if you think in terms of the business, we have these enterprises which are expected to run as a business. So we have a Tollendale Park, which is an enterprise that receives, fortunately, money from an endowment to sustain the maintenance and operation of that park. We have a sewer enterprise, which provides wastewater services throughout the city and in the greater South Dunsmuir area as well. We have a solid waste fund, which is what we have mandatory waste collection. And we have a water enterprises, which delivers water to all the residences of businesses. And we also have an airport enterprise, which we have an airport just on the northeast part of the city. So each one of these businesses are broken down as a fund, and we show how we're spending money in those different enterprises. But the big takeaway here is they are to be a business and self-sustaining, and to run themselves. So the first one of the enterprises is Tollendale Park. As I mentioned earlier, this is something that one of the benefits that the city has out of the Cantera spill, where there was an endowment set up, and it is being managed by Shasta Regional Community Foundation administers the money that is in an account, and we're fortunate enough to be able to operate this enterprise from the interest that is out of that endowment. So it's this year, we have something new out of this department where we have contracted the maintenance of that park with Parks and Rec. So that is now under contract services. Okay, the next enterprise is sewer. Here, one of the things I want to point out here is sewer. We're in the process of a sewer rate study, and I want to show you the reasons we're in that process. The sewer enterprise, there's two funds. One is the sewer operation fund, and the other one is the sewer improvement fund. So with those two funds combined, we have a revenue of $743,000, or $743,798.
Mark, would you relate this to their bills that they see?
When you get your utility bill, you'll see two charges on there. One is for sewer, and one is for sewer improvement. So the money that we have that comes into the city, so what we're estimating to come in for this next fiscal year for that one line on your sewer bill, as a total, we have $558,020 that we expect to come in to fund sewer operations. The second line item on your bill is for the sewer improvement. If you aggregate that, we expect to get $185,778. The total of the two comes out to $743,998. Our expenditures currently, which are very, very thin, we don't have any capital items in here, and we're looking at $727,245. So you can see that we're spending more in operations than we're receiving from the sewer operations fund. So we have to fix that. And we're looking to get a reserves built back up within that fund as well. So to do that, we're going to have to look at what are the services required and what are those costs and what is that going to translate to in our bill, the bill that we get at our doors. Okay, there's all the costs. You see the sewer's got a lot more accounts that they draw from because they've got a lot more going on. A lot of state regulatory stuff that's happening in the sewer enterprise. Solid waste, this is another enterprise that is part of the rate study that's being done this year. Same up here, we have revenues that's coming in at, let's see.
I see a type of error there. You
Yeah.
got talking about best water under solid
Yep.
waste.
Yeah, thank you. I did catch that earlier. This was a template I was using for each department, and I did not delete that, so thank you for catching that.
No foul.
Yeah. And so here, the revenue that comes in is this solid waste. We're looking at revenue of $288,600 coming in from your bill as an aggregate. So when you receive the people in the city limits have this on their bill, and we're expecting to get $288,600 this next fiscal year. The cost to provide the service is $418,299. So we are dipping into the solid waste reserve at $129,699 to make up the difference.
May I address that?
Yes, please.
Just so you're aware, if you weren't following in the last couple of years, there was a situation where we had a extra large surplus in there, and it became an item and became a contentious item for a bit. And so what the city council decided to do was to put out a Prop 218, go through a Prop 218 process, and we were proposing reducing the rates below what we needed. And we did that on purpose to reduce the surplus, the excessive surplus. So we're kind of taking it from this level down to here, and so as we come out of it, what we're hoping to do with the survey is figure out where we need to be in a steady state. So the fact that we're spending a lot more than we're taking in right now is by plan, and as long as we figure out with the rate study where to land, we'll be fine, I think, and we'll do another Prop 218 process.
Absolutely. Okay, we're down to 5 minutes, so I'm going to, do you want to open up for questions in Q&A or move on? We have water and airport left. To summarize water, we're looking at revenues coming in for operations at $625,301. Also, we have an improvement fund that's getting $140,000 estimated. Our cost, we're trying to stay within our operational costs here. So the revenue coming in is $625,000. We're looking at operational costs of just under $625,000. So there's a tiny surplus that we're going to have this year in water operations, for operations. And the last one being the airport. The airport is it typically runs at a deficit. This year we're looking at a deficit of $17,693 for the airport, just to operate the airport. We do have one grant that is being finished up currently for an airport layout plan, and we are in the process of looking at getting a grant to do engineering for repaving of the runway, which would be grant funded as well.
If I could real quick, and I know we're short on time, but I want to make sure. So right now, we're in the process of being able to do an engineering design study to look at the airport runway to have that resurfaced. That's based on the pavement management plan that we just had the grant that paid for that. And we were able to work it so that we didn't have to extend any matching funds because of the accounting and understanding the way the system worked. Because of the numbers we saw at the beginning of the process, those numbers trickle down, and we were able to match our 5.5% for the engineering study. And there's also one other piece that I just want to, on this point, we're very close to understanding that we may be into a situation where they have $1 billion across the country to spend on airports that are in bad situations, and certain ones that are in bad enough situations, will have access to $1 billion, and they're looking at it being no match. Which means that if we get this engineering study to say this is what you need for the airport, which right now is on a 3 on a scale of 10, in the runways, we could have the money coming in to update that whole thing and get it without having to extend any money ourselves. So that's an exciting future, and we're also working at coming up with an industrial park that'll be able to fund the airport. So all this negative stuff will stop happening. Our goal is to get it to be self-sufficient. That's all. Thank you.
Can we address the fact that we did take out a loan to do the match?
I know.
But you did not, you didn't make it sound too rosy. Please explain also that you have to take out a loan to come up with a match for those 2 grants.
We did have to take out a loan to that, yes. But I'm looking to the future. So with that in mind and the clock in mind, how you understand. Mark, anything else you want to go through here?
I think that's the end of the enterprises. We talked local transportation and SB1 funding, gas taxes, those are all in there as well. The big thing out of the gas tax and SB1 funding is this sidewalk project that's going to be going in this summer if the council this evening approves the notice of award for the contractor.
So the next meeting is supposed to start at 6. Why don't we give it a 5-minute break from here and we'll convene it. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I believe there's a few folks in the audience that we're here to possibly talk about the TUT disbursements.
Why don't we do that during the council meeting? We have a presentation that's coming up that we have to be timed in, or can we postpone that?
They're going to be waiting on us, probably within 15 minutes.
Okay, give 15 minutes.
We don't have anything on the agenda to,
That's the other thing I was concerned about. We're having
We have the CTC presentation. They're expecting us to dial in at about 6:15, 6:25, somewhere around there.
Okay, we got enough. Okay, I'll open the podium to public comment. Since we are short for time, please be brief and welcome the public. Please step to the podium and microphone. And this is a draft budget, so we're not saying this is in stone. This came from the committee and then it comes to us later, so we're welcome your comments.
Okay. My name is Stephen Bryan. I'm the director here at the Dunsmuir Community Resource Center. And I just wanted to speak to the TUT and the grant that we put in for. The Dunsmuir Community Resource Center, a lot of what we do is exactly in line with the goals of the city. We're working on with the community garden. We're doing a pilot project on green waste. We're getting more compost bins. We're working with local restaurants downtown, taking their green waste and using it and turning it into compost. We're also going to hopefully open that up to the public at large. once we get a good program down, we get comfortable with what we're doing. We also support a lot of the food insecurities going on here in Dunsmuir. We've expanded our food pantry. We have commodities for seniors. We do self-certification food. We're also using the Dunsmuir Community Garden to supplement those resources by providing fresh produce and fruit and herbs to the commodities in the pantry. So we're not just giving out dry products. We're going to be doing ongoing cooking classes, nutritional classes, play groups with small children in the center and also in the community garden. A lot of what we do is supporting veterans here in the community. We have a couple veterans that work with us at the resource center that also work in the garden. I just would like the city council to keep that all this in mind as you move forward, and hopefully you will reconsider the resource center as a viable option to keep it here in the center of the community. And we do serve a large part of the community that relies on us. So just want you to take that into consideration in your next meeting. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Bryant, I just want to say that I understand that totally. I just saw that there. I want to ask just how many people here are here to support the Community Resource Center. If you just raise your hands. I know we don't have a lot of time for everybody, but I thought you did an eloquent job of stating what your purpose is, and I take it very seriously.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other people?
Jim Cole, 6235 Hill Street. I guess I'm representing the library. And I just want to thank the council and city manager for granting our request for $20,000 from
It's tentative right now, so
yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
And all I'm going to add to that really is that even according to our treasurer, even if we receive this grant for $20,000, we are still looking at least an $8,000 deficit in our, in our library. So, but we appreciate the tentative grant of $20,000. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Andrea Herr from 4740 Simpson Avenue, and I'm the market manager for the farmers market here, which will start on June 21st. And I appreciate the help tentatively, and that money will help low-income individuals, families, and seniors to with a match for their purchases. Particularly with EBT, WIC, and Senior Farmers Market WIC purchases to help them stretch their dollars and get fresh produce. I do have to return to work actually this evening, so I just am hoping if there's any questions regarding that or the street closure later in the agenda that hopefully somebody will answer them, maybe Richard. So thank you very much. And we're actually really excited. We're looking to have more produce, and some of that produce will come from the community garden. We're really excited about that through the help of the Community Resource Center.
Thank you.
Richard Dinges, I'm the Executive Director for the Dunsmuir Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center, and I want to thank this council for considering us for the amount of money that they're going to be giving us this next year. As you know, that we do advertising for the city and marketing, and we're continuing to do that. We want to continue that for the next 5 years. I think for the last 5 years we've done it, you've seen it increase in a lot of different things, especially TOT and especially the tax in the town. So we're here, that's what we were supposed to do, and try to bring in and drive in new business into town. And we're hoping to work on the EDC committee so we can continue that forward, so we can get more industrial and light industrial and commercial in this town. Make it more survivable. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm sure you're short for time, but I just want to thank the council on behalf of the Recreation District here in Dunsmuir. I managed the district for a while now, and the consideration you gave us is very much appreciated. I know it's a hard call on you guys. It's always tough when you have more requests than you have money, but I understand. And the district looks forward to working with the city ongoing. So thank you for your support, and you're doing a tough job, but good job. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening, my name is David Hicks. I'm here in place of one of Dunsmuir's most wonderful people, my wife, Nicole York, who had to fly down to Los Angeles to help with her 93-year-old elderly uncle. She and her mother are his only family, so she really wanted to be here to talk with you about Saving Shasta Cats, Inc. I noticed we're not on the proposed list, but we haven't given up our interest in being there because we see that Saving Shasta Cats, Inc. as a partner with the community and the city in many, many respects. She gave me a few words to say over text today, so I'll be brief and stick with what she said, except I want to mention one thing. You may not realize what Saving Shasta Cats is yet, but it was formed here 3 years ago. It's an all-volunteer organization. There are many people, including some in this room, who are not seeking any recognition, so I won't mention them, who have been supporting Saving Shasta Cats, Inc. purpose in helping the community at large. And just so you'll know that, like, within the last 30 days, Saving Shasta Cats spent $4,351 on vet services to benefit poor people in our community here who can't afford to take care of their own pets, and purchased $3,365 in food. And we have volunteers who drive around town and bring pet food to people who are having trouble feeding themselves and need some help. So with that, a little fact background, you can see that that's about what we asked for, was about 1 month's worth of operational expense. Nobody is paid. This is an all-volunteer organization. So the comments that Nicole wanted to share with the council and the city manager and those present are these. You don't need to be an animal lover to appreciate the benefit to the community that Saving Shasta Cats, Inc. does, and they do things also for dog owners and dogs as well, but that's the name they picked. In helping others without funds, it helps the overall health of the community. What Saving Shasta Cats does isn't just avoiding unwanted ferals, although we probably saved the city about 3,000 abandoned, what we call community cats. We don't believe in stray cats. There are a lot of poor people who are evicted, they have to move away. Where they move to has no pet policies, and so they just dump their pets on our streets. So over the last couple of months, Saving Shasta Cats has taken many animals to the vet, and then after proper treatment, which I'll mention in a second, they're then transported up to Oregon where there's a shortage of cats for adoption. So I've seen my wife drive up to Klamath Falls, drive up to Grants Pass, Medford, down to Reading, taking these abandoned animals to places where they can have homes. And before they can get to the homes, they have to go to the vet, and then they have to go into foster care. We have a whole network of foster care people who are actually fostering 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cats at a time while we're looking for people who are looking for pets.
Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
If I could, I'd like to hear more about it. Can we ask you to stick around a little bit and talk during public comments in the meeting?
Okay, can I share these remarks then?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure,
great,
definitely.
thank you.
I just think we need to kind of get on, and I appreciate what you shared, and I know Nicole is very passionate about her work, but thank you, and if you want to stick around.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do it. I was wondering if this was the right time.
Well, it's good, you let us know, and then we'll come back and we'll hear more.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, thank you, everybody. So this is not even an official meeting. We'll take about 3 or 4 minutes so the council members can do what they have to do, and then we'll be back and starting the actual council meeting. Thank you. Good job, Mark.